It's June 28th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with the first Biden-Trump presidential debate of 2024. U.S. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump will take the stage in the coming hour for their first of two televised face-offs. It'll be the first debate between a sitting president and a former one in almost 70 years. Shares of the Webtune Entertainment jumped by as much as 14% on its Nasdaq debut on Thursday. Trading closed with the South Korean tech giant Naver-backed online cosmic platform valued at over $2.9 billion. South Korea's southeastern city of Gyeongju has been chosen to host the 2025 Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. It'll be the first time in 2 decades for the APEC summit to be held here in Korea. Naver Webtoon was listed on the Nasdaq in the U.S. stock market on Thursday with trading starting at $21.30. That's higher than the upper end of the marketed range. Our Lee Seung-jae starts us off.
Nearly 20 years ago, South Korea's leading portal site, Naver, launched its Webtoon service in South Korea. And since then, Webtoons have emerged as one of the most popular forms of comics around the world, with 170 million people from 150 countries enjoying Naver's Webtoon service. Fast forward to June 27, 2024, Naver Webtoon launched on the Nasdaq on the U.S. stock market. After trading started, the price of a single Naver Webtoon share traded at $21.30, higher than the upper end of the marketed range. The U.S. initial public offering raised $315 million after the first day of trading saw its share prices rise 9.5%, closing at a final trading price of $23. The market cap has risen to $2.9 billion, higher than the company's initial first-day target of $2.7 billion. The growing popularity of Korean webtoons has also seen stories recreated into drama series and movies. Experts predict that the webtoon industry will grow into a $60 billion business by 2030. With the platform easily accessible on smartphones, the vertically scrolled format makes it an easy, quick read for many users. Naver's webtoons are available in 10 different languages as its popularity expands globally. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Semiconductor lobby groups of South Korea and the U.S. on Thursday discussed ways to strengthen cooperation between the two countries in the chip industry. According to Seoul's Industry Ministry on Friday, the U.S.-Korea Supply Chain and Commercial Dialogue Semiconductor Forum was held in Washington after an agreement in April last year to create an event to explore ways to expand ties in the sector. There, Industry Minister An Deok-keun and U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, along with officials from top chip makers, Samsung Electronics, SK Hynix, Intel, and IBM exchanged ideas on expanding cooperation in various fields of the industry. The Korea Semiconductor Industry Association and the U.S. Semiconductor Industry Association also signed an MOU, agreeing to hold the forum regularly and to seek business partnerships in emerging sectors. It's debate night over in the U.S., where President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are going head-to-head in the first presidential debate of the 2024 election. Let's go straight over to D.C., where VOA correspondent Chris Keskoe is standing by. Hello there, Chris.
Hi, good to be with you tonight.
So we are less than an hour away from the much-anticipated debate, and today's presidential debate is no ordinary one, is it?
No, and that's because it is the first time that a current president and a former president are facing off in a televised debate. And it's also the earliest presidential debate ever taking place before their nominating conventions. The Republican National Convention is in Milwaukee in July, and the Democratic National Convention is in Chicago in August.
You know, I'm sure you remember their last debate 4 years ago was quite a hectic one. Now, to prevent something like that this time, new rules will be introduced this time so that the debate will be a more constructive one. Let's talk about that.
Right. First, let's talk about that debate 4 years ago when 73 million people tuned into the first Biden-Trump debate in 2020. But it turned into a shout fest, and it was widely panned by analysts as one of the worst presidential debates ever because both candidates constantly interrupted and talked over each other. But their second encounter later that year was more civil. So that's why some of these new rules are in place. Let's get to those rules. There will be no live audience, eliminating the prospect of cheering, booing, and applause from both Biden and Trump supporters. They have 2 minutes to answer questions, 1 minute for rebuttals, and 1 minute for responses to rebuttals. The candidates will also not be allowed to use any props or written notes. They will only be given a pen, paper, and water. And their microphones will only be live when the candidate is being asked the question, although it's unclear whether the muted mic will pick up any sound from the other candidate. Flashing red lights will warn them when they have 5 seconds left to finish an answer. Then that light will turn bright red and they will be told to stop and their microphone will be turned off. Now, Biden will stand on the right of the stage in this debate because he won the coin toss.
All right. Well, it looks like the debate has to be civil under those new rules. Let's start with what's believed Biden will pinpoint during the debate. What will be his main arguments?
Well, Biden will likely point out that Trump is now a convicted felon, and his campaign put up a billboard in Atlanta, the site of that debate, pointing that fact out. Of course, Trump was convicted of 34 counts of falsifying business records in an attempt to influence the outcome of the 2016 presidential election when he tried to conceal payments to an adult film star to conceal their relationship. Now, Biden will also assuredly remind voters that Trump is facing other criminal charges, particularly in regards to January 6, 2021. And the Supreme Court is expected to decide within the next few days here, or maybe even tomorrow, whether Trump is immune. And he's also likely to blame Trump for the current situation with abortion because it was Trump who got to pick 3 Supreme Court justices who eventually overturned Roe versus Wade. And he's also probably going to paint Trump as a threat to democracy, citing Trump's own campaign promises on the trail of retribution for his political enemies.
And I'm sure Trump will bring up the U.S. migration problems and the country's, inflation fight to fight back, right? Something that Trump believes is a weakness of Biden.
Right, and that's what Republicans are trying to do. They're really trying to frame this campaign as one about immigration and the economy, specifically high inflation. Thousands of migrants have streamed into the U.S. border since Biden became president, but he recently tightened entry restrictions when he basically, did what was in that bipartisan border bill that Trump urged Republican congressional members to vote down so Biden would not get credit for it. Now, Trump has also claimed that excessive government spending early in Biden's term helped contribute to the record consumer prices that were at 9%, but have now leveled off to about 3.3%. But inflation is still one of the top concerns for voters.
Well, Chris, let's be real. All these topics and arguments will come as no surprise to many of the voters. How are pundits expecting the outcome of the debate to come out and actually depend on?
Well, VOA talked with the debate coach at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and he says Biden needs to avoid one main thing, and that is any kind of gaffe that highlights his advanced age. After all, the president is 81. Now, on the other hand, for Trump, what he needs to avoid is looking unpresidential, constantly interrupting or talking over Biden, but that might be a moot point because of the microphone issue. And Trump just really needs to look presidential, so to speak, is what analysts say. And he's been able to do that in speeches, to joint speeches of Congress, like the State of the Union. But on the campaign trail, analysts have said he's more free-flowing and riffing, and that's when he starts telling more lies.
Right. Well, let's see how the two manage to behave this time. Chris, before I let you go, how are the two doing currently in the key battleground states before the anticipated debate?
Well, the most recent Washington Post poll found that Donald Trump is leading in 6 of the 7 key battleground states expected to decide this election in November. But the race is very close in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And Washington Post averages with a normal-sized polling error of 3.5 points, which means that that polling is showing that it's a toss-up between Donald Trump and current President Joe Biden. That is statistically speaking.
Right.
And of course, polls change. We'll have to see how this debate plays into the minds of voters, because 1/5 of them have said that they will use this debate to help them decide which candidate to vote for.
Definitely. All right, Chris, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
The 32nd annual meeting of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation is set to be held in South Korea next year. Will be hosted by Gyeongju City. Our Pangut tells us more.
Gyeongju City, former capital of the Silla Kingdom and home to some of Korea's most important historical sites, has been selected as the host city for the annual meeting of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation next year. Gyeongju was reported to be evaluated highly for its historical value and cultural aspects, beating its rivals including Jeju and Incheon. Hosting the event is likely to bring economic benefits to the city. An analysis by Gyeongbok Development Institute said an economic effect of some 1.4 trillion Korean won, or over $1 billion, is expected to be created in Gyeongsangbuk-do province, where Gyeongju is located. With around 200 meetings, including summits between 21 countries and ministerial meetings to be held during APEC 2025, around 500,000 domestic and foreign visitors are expected to visit Gyeongju.
Los Cabos in Mexico was once a small city with a population of only 70,000, but has been transformed into a tourist city of 340,000 through APEC. As we have been given the opportunity, we will make sure to take advantage of it.
Gyeongju has pledged to prepare thoroughly for the event.
We will form an APEC preparatory support group and establish optimal infrastructure for facilities including conference halls, accommodation, and media. We will also provide operational support for protocol, transportation, cultural tourism, and medical personnel.
APEC 2025 is set to be held in November next year. This will be the first time since Busan in 2005 that the APEC summit will be held in South Korea. Pangut, Arirang News.
President Yoon Suk-yeol will meet with Washington's spy chief Avril Haines on Friday afternoon. According to a senior UN official, the South Korean leader will hold talks with the U.S. Director of National Intelligence in Seoul, where they're likely to discuss the recent treaty signed by the leaders of North Korea and Russia. Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin last week signed a pact to strengthen military and economic cooperation, which includes a clause on providing mutual defense in the event of aggression. Haines is expected to share further information about the treaty with Yoon as they discuss Seoul and Washington's response, as well as Pyongyang's recent provocations, including its launch of waste-filled balloons targeting the South. The gist of the game at this year's Busan Mobility Show is going green with electric vehicles and actually making them more accessible to the general public. Our Moon Hae-ryun went there and files this report.
The Busan International Mobility Show is one of the country's biggest motor events, and it's the first time that it's been rebranded from the Busan International Motor Show, featuring other modes of transport such as urban air mobility vehicles and autonomous driving boats. But cars remain in the spotlight, with several new releases on the press day prior to the event opening to the public on Friday. With electric vehicles becoming increasingly more popular, the new reveals at this year's show are centered around more affordable and accessible models, such as this car behind me. Hyundai Motor showcased its Casper electric model for the first time to meet the demand for low-cost EVs following its success with the Ioniq 5 and 6.
The popularization of EVs will only become possible if anyone can enjoy the various experiences that they provide easily and at a reasonable cost. So today we unveil the new standard for the EV era, the Casper Electric.
Another car designed for the everyday driver is its new all-electric Mini Cooper, an electric version of its classic Mini Cooper model. Fitted with OLED display screens from Samsung Display, the British automotive brand has put a modern twist on its traditional circular dash that's also paired with voice-activated controls. Luxury vehicle brand Genesis Motor also unveiled its newly minted electrified G80, which features several new aspects that elevate the experience for both driver and passenger. A single button enables the driver to open and close the fuel door without needing to get their hands dirty, and the vehicle itself is bigger to give more room in the back.
Due to the new design of the wheel, which made improvements to drag force, crucial for EVs, the new electrified G80 can now go around 475 kilometers on one charge, nearly 50 kilometers more than the former model.
BMW also presented its high-end cars, the new high-performance M4 model as well as the all-electric new iX2. But the scale of the Busan International Mobility Show has declined over the past few years, with the number of visitors falling by around 27% over the last 8 years, alongside a slowdown in the EV industry.
Consumers are now familiar with EVs, so they know what they want to look for in terms of features and price. This means that there's more of a monopoly in the market where popular EVs are doing well and others aren't.
With the event now focusing on more interactive booths as opposed to new releases to enable a more hands-on experience for visitors and showing other future mobility trends, eyes are on whether this could change the face of the show. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News, Busan.
New York City's Times Square is known for its bright lights and bustling crowds, but on Wednesday, traditional Korean music and dance took center stage. Our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin reports from New York.
Surrounded by giant billboards and towering buildings, the distinct sound of traditional Korean instruments being played, the gwangwari and taepyeongso, fill the air. Musicians not only play, but dance to their music. The stage? One of the world's busiest crossroads, Times Square. This is the National Kugak Center's Korean folk music performance, Pangut.
This is my fourth time at Times Square, but it's my first time performing here instead of just sightseeing. It feels really special, and I hope that by performing in front of so many people today, we can help spread Korean culture.
The show is a kickoff event counting down to the official opening of the New York Korea Center. Described by the Culture Ministry as a comprehensive hub of Korean culture, the Korea Center brings together the overseas branches of the Korean Cultural Center, Korea Tourism Organization, Korea Creative Content Agency, and the King Sejong Institute under one roof. Currently, there are 5 branches in Los Angeles, Shanghai, Tokyo, Beijing, and Paris. With just a day until the center's opening, the Culture Ministry partnered with the National Kugak Center for the Pangut performance to raise awareness and boost excitement.
It was actually very cool and very unique. We never seen before, so we're just standing and kind of cool.
It's something different, and people should know about the traditions because a lot of people, they are not familiar with the indigenous traditions, and also introducing something like that, it's really nice.
Yes.
So the stage is set and the excitement here is palpable, as you can see. All that's left now is the grand opening of the New York Korea Center this Thursday night here in Manhattan. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News, New York.
Good morning, I'm Kim Xiang, and now we turn to stories from around the world. Iranians go to the polls on Friday to choose their new president following the death of President Ebrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash last month. 4 candidates are vying for the presidency, with current Parliament Speaker Mohammad Khalibaf and former nuclear negotiator Saeed Jalili, both with military ties, seen as the frontrunners. The lone reformist candidate, Masoud Pezeshkian, a cardiac surgeon who has called for greater international outreach for the improvement of Iran's economy. He has been criticized by ultimate power holder, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, who says even mildly reformist ideas are unacceptable for Iran. With the average age of the candidates at 63 years old, observers are predicting minimal change to Iran's political structure from the election. The new Iranian president will be able to provide counsel and influence to Khamenei, who is 85 years old, especially in choosing his possible successor. Results are expected to start coming out as early as Saturday. The Bolivian government announced on Thursday the arrest of 17 people allegedly involved in Wednesday's attempted coup d'etat led by a former army chief. General Juan Jose Zuniga and former Navy Vice Admiral Juan Salvador were arrested on Wednesday and remain in custody, while one civilian, Anibal Aguilar Gomez, arrested on Thursday, was identified by a senior cabinet member as the apparent mastermind of the failed coup. The lawmaker said the alleged conspirators began making their plans in May, while no information was given on the 15 others arrested. The South American nation of 12 million people witnessed chaos in the capital La Paz on Wednesday as military forces surrounded government buildings with armored vehicles and tanks before the intense situation was resolved without bloodshed. In Slovakia, at least 6 people have been killed after an international express train collided with a bus on a level crossing. At around 5 p.m. local time Thursday, near the town of Nowe Zamki, about 80 kilometers east of the capital Bratislava, the train traveling from Prague to Budapest collided with the bus at a level crossing. All casualties were passengers on the bus, which officials said was sliced in half at impact. A spokesperson from the Slovak Rescue Services confirmed that about 200 people were on the train and 9 were on the bus at the time. While the exact reason behind the collision is yet to be confirmed, some Slovak media reported that the level crossing lights and barriers might not have been functioning due to a recent storm. And for our final story of the week, we go to the U.S. state of Illinois, where a giant sinkhole opened up in a sports field on Wednesday, swallowing some 30 meters of the pitch, as well as a large light pole. While no injuries were reported at the field at Alton's Gordon Moore Park, the director of the Alton Parks and Recreation Department said that the hole was at least 30.5 meters wide and up to 15.2 meters deep. New Frontier Materials Bluff City, a limestone mining firm in the area, confirmed that the sinkhole resulted from surface subsidence and its underground mine in Alton. The surrounding areas have been indefinitely closed.
Good morning. Monsoon rain takes a break today and the heat sets in. Southern provinces will see highs going nearly 5 degrees higher this afternoon to the low 30s again, while the capital will be hotter today with higher humidity. Most of Korea will be basking under blazing sunshine, but there could be passing rain during the day in eastern parts of the country with 5 to 20 millimeters expected, along with thunderstorms. And this afternoon, Seoul and Chuncheon should go up to 33 degrees Celsius, and Gwangju tops out at 32, so as Daegu, Gyeongju, and Daejeon this afternoon under strong UV rays. Now, the monsoon season starts tomorrow in central regions. Rain will start from Jeju tomorrow at dawn, gradually spreading nationwide. It will rain in the capital from tomorrow night. Monsoon rain could lash down on most of Korea, pouring more than 100 millimeters into Sunday. It's going to rain through the first week of July, so please take the weather into account and plan accordingly for the upcoming week. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day and Arirang. We will be back next Monday at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.